Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, how's it going? It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Welcome on Rumble. Welcome on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Please let us know where you're tuning in from here in the live chat. And we'll get the show started today. A little earlier, spontaneous. There's a reason. Actually, I'm going to talk about this today. There's a reason why we don't schedule live streams anymore on YouTube, for example. But for now, let me welcome you all. Let me say we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. Big things are happening, and they don't always look like big things. They don't make the headlines, the big headlines, but the they make the alternative media, if you will, or the real media now headlines. So let me welcome you all, aware and awake. Welcome. Martin is here from the Netherlands. How's it going? Dragons, Guardian, Crystal Hearts. Good to see you. Matthew, is it Bays or Hey Streamer from St. Paul, Minnesota? Pure Fire Tactical. Good to see you from Florida. Your Fulfillment Now. Johnny Mitas, Bob. Good to see you. Jody, Jojo, Chris, Ascending Soul. Welcome. Nick Younger. Good to see you from Idaho. Then we got Renita, Ontario. Good to see you. Ray, Janet, Neerit from Israel. Good to see you. Thank you all for tuning in. All right. Let's dive into it, my friends. So, we're decoding the matrix, dissecting this whole thing, and it's such a beautiful journey. Every morning, I go outside. I'm in the woods. I'm walking with our dog Jagger, and I just soak it in. I feel the spirit. And what I've been feeling lately so strongly is the spirit of truth. That's the most important thing of our times. More than anything else at this point. I also hear the great creator constantly just the word truth. Just stick with truth now. Just focus on that. That's really important. One thing that's been coming out, and we have been talking about this since early 2020 when it really began to happen, is censorship. And how it all evolved, and it was there before. Don't get me wrong. It had been there for a long time. The internet has gone slowly downhill over time. It's nothing like the early days, in the early 2000s when first YouTube first came up and all the other platforms, and we really had the power to share information. And that's why it got censored, because we had such a great impact. But as always with censorship, it creates the opposite effect. When you burn books, what do people do? They try to get that book as hard as possible. When they banned a song on the radio, everybody went out and bought the LP or the single or the CD, whatever. And now we see this with social media. The more they've censored, the more people have started their own channels. They've gone to free speech platforms or have worked around the crazy rules. And now, of course, people have gotten so used to the idea that big companies and big corporations and big government and big tech just gets away with all the crap because they had their people everywhere, because they excuse me, because they had their people in government, because it was all one big cozy family, that even when something came out, it was kind of, they put it under the rug and on they went. But now it's coming up, and this is the Great Awakening. In the Great Awakening, things don't work super fast. This is what people are sometimes frustrated with. But everything is done correctly. Information is being gathered. Research is being done. Evidence is being collected. And the pieces are being put together, and then things come out. And now we're going to see accountability. That's the next thing that's going to happen. Accountability. Trust me. There's absolutely no way around this. This is why you see, like the thing we talked about yesterday in a live stream, we talked about the Atlantic article and how Emily Oster, who wrote the article in the Atlantic, called for amnesty, quote, pandemic amnesty, basically saying everything we did and said during the pandemic, we should just forget about it and move on, because we didn't know, we didn't know, we were in the dark. And that's now the campaign, because they know it's coming. And the same is for censorship. I'm going to read something to you. Some of you might know, some of you might not know, but here it is. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This is what people say when they mean the First Amendment. This is what they talk about. Congress shall make no laws in any way, shape, or form abridging the freedom of speech. This is really, really important. However, they put this in the Constitution. This is the First Amendment to the Constitution. But it doesn't mean that if your country doesn't explicitly say this in its Constitution, that you don't have that right. You have the right to free expression, and that comes naturally. That's just, boom, that's just here. And here's where the problem kicks in. It isn't that these social media platforms came publicly out and said, here's what we are. We are a publisher, because that's how they act. We are a publisher. And as a publisher of information, we choose what we publish and what we don't publish. Boom, done. That would be your right, because it's like any other publisher. You choose what author you're going to sign and what books you're going to print. That's your freedom. But if you come on as a social media platform and you call yourself a platform and you make it clear that you are not a publisher, and you hence enjoy the benefits that regulations, rules, and tax exemptions and whatnot give you as a platform, you cannot moderate and censor the content. Otherwise, you're a publisher. But it goes further than that. It wasn't really the social media platforms themselves censoring the content. As The Intercept's Lee Fang and Ken Klippenstein, they reviewed years of internal DHS documents and communications with the social media platform. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, so that's a government agency. And they found that the department was working hand in glove with social media companies to police misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. A draft of DHS Quadrennial Homeland Security Review revealed that DHS intended to use departmental resources to push back on inaccurate information on the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic and the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, racial justice, U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the nature of U.S. support to Ukraine. So they're just picking randomly topics, and then they say the government is saying, we know the truth. We know the accurate information. We have it all. We are God, and we know the truth. And because we know, we can tell everyone else what the truth isn't, and that they cannot say it anymore. And that's basically tyranny. That is what tyranny really is. And this, of course, has been going on, and we've been talking about this. We've been telling people how we ourselves have been constantly policed, censored, videos taken down, shadow banned, and threatened, and all these things, simply because we speak up. We are not saying we have the truth. We're truth seekers. We're researchers. We go deep into topics and we look them up. But here, the government is saying, no, you can't do that. And where's the freedom of speech in this? What exactly do they think freedom of speech means? Well, there's another thing, of course. Why can they do that, right? People say, well, how can they actually put pressure on Twitter and YouTube and all the others? Well, let's go with the open secret. The government has taken the right, because they don't have it inherently, to tax corporations and to regulate corporations. Well, when you have the right to tax and regulate corporations, you can do a whole lot if they don't play by your guidelines, right? But there's another thing. If you go and look at the origins of social media companies, Facebook, Twitter, and all the others, and who the founders were, and who the venture capital companies were that provided the capital to start these companies, you will often find three-letter agencies that are actually involved in these venture capital companies. That's how they put all the control into the companies. They put their people in there. So they've been steering the ship from the get-go. Three-letter agencies are everywhere. I mean, they're known that, the C and the I and the other letter, and all the other agencies, they're known to do this. They've been doing this for a very long time. But let me go on in this article that was published in the American Conservative. Reading Fang and Klippenstein's report, that's from The Intercept, you almost forget the United States has a First Amendment, right? To meet its goals, DHS and other government actors are reportedly meeting regularly with tech executives to influence their content moderation decisions. I mean, this is ridiculous. It is basically like saying that people from other government agencies, they would constantly come into your ice cream shop and tell you what flavors you can or cannot display there and what you can and cannot sell in terms of flavors. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, and then internal memos note that Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Wikipedia and other tech companies met monthly with the FBI and government representatives in the run-up to the 2020 election, and that those meetings have reportedly continued in the months and years since. Okay, let's go with the election for a while. In the run-up of the 2020 election, we've seen the biggest censorship of information ever. Like, I mean, nothing, at least not in the United States, or I mean, a country that prides itself on freedom and free speech and all that crap. It's not crap, but how they treat it is crap. And a perfect example was the laptop from hell, Hunter Biden's laptop. What happened was, when they broke that story, the New York Post broke that story. The New York Post, a newspaper that's been around for over 120, 30 years, something like that, was banned from posting that. Their posts were taken down. Their account was frozen on Twitter, on Facebook, and everywhere else. And the media came out with the ludicrous lie that the laptop story was Russian disinformation. All the pictures were forged. All the emails were forged. It was Russian disinformation campaign. So you had one piece of crucial information that would have destroyed any other campaign in history. And it had destroyed that one too, by the way. But anyway, so you couldn't report accurately before the election. What happened after the election? Well, let me read to you the guidelines of YouTube regarding the elections. Okay, I'm gonna just read you the most ludicrous line, which you cannot do on YouTube. Dear friends here on YouTube, here's what we cannot say. Content that advances false claims that widespread fraud, errors, or glitches change the outcome of any past US presidential election. So they just picked that out. You cannot say that an error or fraud or a glitch could have changed the outcome of any past US presidential election. Not mayoral, not governor, just US presidential elections. So before the election, you couldn't put out important information. After the election, you couldn't question the election. And this is, think about this. This is how crazy this has become. This is how crazy the censorship has become. But who needs to censor? Who needs to censor? If you have the truth, you don't need to censor. You trust in the truth. You don't need to tell others to shut up. You simply present the facts, and the facts live on, and they eventually, everybody realizes those are the facts because they're the facts. When you have it, it's no problem. When you base everything on lies, you need to silence everyone else. And let me move on in this article. The department counters that content decisions are left to the respective sites and their moderators. But the federal government has the power to tax and regulate these companies, making their advice difficult to ignore. Companies have kept an open line of communication with government officials as a result, with Facebook and its parent company Meta reportedly giving government officials access to a private portal to directly report posts to Facebook administrators. So, in these government agencies, they have their own little login, and they get to a private portal on Facebook, and they can flag your posts, my posts, like they did, and Facebook immediately flags them. You're in violation. You go to Facebook jail, like I've been often, and many of you have been, and removed. And then you ask yourself, well, why would the government do that? Is it political? Because it was only one-sided. To this day, and it doesn't matter what side you're on, to this day, not a single post has been flagged inaccurately when Joe Biden goes on and says, my son Beau died in Iraq. he's been saying this now for a couple of times, 3 times publicly, and if you post that clip, there's no fact checking. He didn't die in Iraq. He died 5 years later of a brain tumor. That's at least the official narrative, right? That's what we learned over the years. However, if someone like Trump had said something even remotely inaccurate as, oh, the GDP growth was 5.45 rather than 5.44%, he would have been fact checked and had been and has been and continues to be constantly. So this is just a one-sided political scheme that's been working. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, this should be troubling to you. But the more troublesome thing is that when now the media comes out and watch what's going to happen, they're going to come out and they're going to continue to say, we just didn't have the information in the past 2.5 years. Science has evolved. Our knowledge has evolved. And clearly we made mistake during COVID. Clearly we made mistakes. We made mistakes in the past, but now we know better. So let's just move on. That's the big cover up that they're trying to do. And the matrix is crumbling, meaning that not a single thing is forgotten and it's going to get lost in history. And so what has been done, and the companies, social media companies, are slowly trying to undo things as Meta is like going down the drain, as they've lost $100 billion, something like that in value. They're, of course, moderating or toning down their content moderation. They're making it seem as though they're promoting free speech again because people have had it. And here's the thing. We don't need Facebook anymore. We really don't need it. We don't need these platforms. We can use them, but we don't need them anymore because others have emerged and they actually see that people want free speech, that this is something that people are not willing to give up because they know that's literally the difference between freedom and tyranny, is when you cannot say things anymore. And we don't want, like anyone else, for false information, for lies and deception to be out there. That's why we hate the mainstream media, because that's all they do. That's all they do. However, if you ban that, you ban everything. If you ban free speech, you ban everything. We have to simply echo the truth more and more and more and become truth in all of our lives. And then that will prevail. It will become normal again, that truth is spoken, known, and heard. And we have to do it that way. We have to do it right. And we stayed on YouTube against all odds and against the wind simply because we didn't want to give up this field, and we didn't want to simply cave in and say, okay, we're going to bow down, we're going to leave. We're doing it. We're staying here. We're speaking, and we're facing the troubles that it gives us, but we're doing it because it needs to be done. Because we're now decoding and breaking through the matrix. All of us, not just us. It's all of us. It's you. It's all of us. We're literally breaking through the matrix. And slowly but surely, it's coming and it's crumbling. And I know everybody wants the big events. They want the big arrests and they want the huge story. But a one-time event does not create consciousness shifts. It simply doesn't work that way. Consciousness shifts happen through experiences, through realizations, through observation, through thinking and free thought. And that's a process people haven't been really used to in a long time. So this is why this is a campaign. It's really history in the making. And trust me, in every field, you now have such a powerful movement in the medical field. You have such a powerful movement in the media field. We are the media. You are the media. It's not Fox, it's not CNN, it's not MSNBC anymore. It's not ABC anymore. They're irrelevant compared to the huge apparatus that we have together built, to the people that we have supported simply because they're truth seekers. We are the media. They are not. They are not. CNN is irrelevant. I want to remind you of a number that came out just a few months ago. I don't know what the recents were, but they're not much better. In their main demographics, I think it's 25 to 55 years old, they had a viewership of 79,000 in a single day. 79,000. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. For it was their main demographic and it was their lowest number ever. Imagine. And just imagine how many public spaces still have that on in many states. And that's still being included in that number. 79,000 viewers. That's nothing. That's irrelevant. That's what a lot of single channels get on a single video of views per day. That's just one channel on one video gets more viewers per day. And there's millions of channels now. So we're breaking through. The matrix is crumbling down, but we need your help as well. If you're called to speak truth and share truth, do it. We always say, please do it. If you're inspired to help people with that, do it. Now's the time. It's still free of charge to do if you can do it in a small way. If you grow bigger and you have a team and have people helping you, of course it costs something, but start with wherever you feel inspired to start. Second thing that we ask you to do, if you say, listen, I might be someone who can share and amplify and distribute and help with that, but I'm not the front guy or the front girl, that's totally fine too. Please share. If you feel a live stream, a video of your favorite speakers or media channels, if you like what we do and if you love a video, please share. We need to break these algorithms. There's a project that we're working on in the background that might change things. And I can only tell you after the fact if it worked or not. But for now, we need the power, the force multipliers that we all are, and share and send out to people and not stop, because there are so many people that want to see that, want to hear it, and need to hear it. It's happening. We are on a winning streak. Good things are happening. And don't get discouraged by the big bombs that are being thrown out. Don't get discouraged by the dust and the dirt that comes from the building being demolished. This building, the Matrix, it's being demolished. It's coming down, and there's a lot of dust and rubble. But the good news is we can build, and we are building something new, and we are building something much better, more beautiful, and beneficial to all. That's the key here. So Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. Please let your friends and family know. Send them. We put the article, the original article by The Intercept. Please send it to them and ask them where they speak about how the DHS and other government agencies interfere and dictate to social media companies what is and isn't right information. And ask them if they trust their government to be the sole source of information and the only source that can determine whether information is accurate or not. If they want their government to be that, if they want their government to play that role, what does it make? It makes them children and the government the all-knowing parent. So people need to make that choice. If they want that, go to the .gov websites and get your information there. We don't believe it should be so. We believe in free speech, and we're going to stand for free speech every day of the week. All right, Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll be back with you again very, very soon.